you bringing in to sit here?
All right. Well, it is Wednesday, right? Wednesday. I've lost track of days. It is Wednesday at noon, which means we are doing the Open Enrollment Power Lunch series, right? This whole series is centered around the idea of bringing valuable, high value insurance agents, right? Or agency owners, people that have been in the business for a while and have had success during open enrollment and outside of open enrollment, to bring them in and provide as much value as we can. This time of year is the time that no matter what last month looked like, no matter what 3 months ago looked like, no matter how you started, right, this is how you finish. And this is the time where you can literally set yourself up for future success over and over again. So with that said, I've got Tony Stark here. Not to be confused with Iron Man, even though he looks like it sometimes, right? We've got Anthony Stark, who has a background with insurance, but does all things insurance as well as family, and now even a speaker. So without further ado, go ahead and introduce Anthony Starks, man. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me, Brad. So just want to be amongst the greats like yourself. I'm here just to be amongst the greats. So I'm Anthony Starks, agency owner, financial freedom insurance, specializing under 65 health insurance, life insurance, do some dental and vision, making sure that we put the portfolio package together for people who don't have benefits. And then also as a coach and consultant to teach business owners how to effectively work with their spouse and thrive in business and marriage at the same time. So we have two dual businesses going on.
I love it, man. I love it. And like I said before we kicked off, we'll probably have a chance to get into some of that too. So if you're on this call and you're like, man, I work with my spouse and it is a headache, or maybe you get along great, we can certainly shed some light on that. I love that that's your heart. And I love to, I haven't got a chance to watch the full, speaking engagement from SWAT, but I got to see the highlight reel, and I just love your guys' hearts. And I appreciate you jumping on last minute. I know we had a little bit of a cancellation, and so I appreciate you jumping in last minute. Hopefully we can provide a ton of value and set up some agents for success. And before we get rolling, Phil says he loves working with his spouse. They were on.
Yeah, there you go.
Phil and Carly were on Monday together, and they work together strong. And their last name is Vote, right? So their company is Vote Insurance Partners. And if you look at the acronym, it's VIP. I just love it, man. It's like, I wish my last name started with a V. But while we're getting going here, right, we've got 12, 13, 15 people on the stream. Go ahead and tag somebody that needs to see this, right? In the comments, if you're watching this, tag somebody that needs to see this. Hey, I don't care. Tag somebody that doesn't need to see this, or maybe you think they need to see this. Maybe they don't think they need to see this, because they need to see this. Anthony's about to drop some bombs on us. So make sure you tag some people. The first thing I want to touch on, Anthony, is you had mentioned, right, that you do health insurance, life insurance, dental, vision, all things insurance, really. I want you to, I have my personal preference towards the end of the year, but share kind of what your focus is for these next 2.5, 3 months, right, as we close out the year. What of those things are going to be your focus, one more so than the other?
So great question. The hyper focus point is going to be on the health insurance and cross-selling the life insurance. So that's our motto, our game plan, because during open enrollment, this is game time. This is your battle time. Everybody's looking for what you offer. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel. So you want to anchor that health insurance piece first and then cross-sell some of the other pieces. I mean, you can go in with the life insurance, but they're not actively looking for the life like they are for the health insurance. So our success has been around anchoring that health insurance and then putting everything else around it.
Man, I love that. I love that. And I kind of teed it up for you because I was figuring that might be your preference and the way that you approach things. And I've been preaching it for a long time. Man, health insurance is the easiest way in the door, right, for your clients. But my personal preference is, and what I train on my agents or train my agents to do, is to make a note of the individual's life insurance situation, right, as they're going through. But to follow up after the new year to get that life insurance in place, unless it's a very simplified issue, meaning maybe it's a low face amount. Maybe you're writing a policy for somebody that's like $500,000. It's simplified issue. You don't have to follow up with it. You don't have to, you know that they're going to get approved. There's not going to be a paramed. They're not going to, go do blood work or, things like that. Because what can happen a lot of times, and this is just my personal preferences, or my personal experience, is that when you're trying to do the health, right, during a season where you have this much time to only do health, right? Mm-hmm. Life insurance is going to exist over here, and it's going to exist before. But during this open enrollment period, you only have so much time to write those health benefits. And so I'll make a note and put it on my calendar to follow up after the new year, or this year, really after January 15th, because of that open enrollment period. So, whatever you're doing, make sure that you realize that those that are most successful are taking a hyper focus, exactly like Anthony said. So obviously now you're probably working a lot of referrals, and I know that you do some local grassroots marketing type efforts, but what are some ways for new agents, or what are some ways that when you were new, you and your wife were new agents, you were able to generate business outside of just the traditional buying leads?
So I would definitely say that's a really great question. And a lot of people get lost in the weeds with that. I definitely recommend to first, you have to put yourself in a position to get in front of as many people as possible, whether it's going to be events, whether it's at your church, whether it's passing out flyers, whatever that looks like. But you want to be in a position to where more people put eyeballs on you so that they know what you do. Because even right now, if you had $1 million and you want to give away $1 million, but you couldn't speak it or you couldn't show it in any kind of way, why would a person come to you and ask you for the $1 million? They wouldn't, because there's no way to communicate your message. So the way you do that is by advertising, whether, again, if it's passing out flyers, standing in front of an audience at your church on Sunday, if you all are open. I know COVID kind of has that a little thrown off right now, but events, and again, you advertising, this is what I do. So at least people can know what you do. Does that make sense? So that's number one. Number two, I highly recommend that you do what we call in our agency a Project 100, which is literally writing down a list of 100 names, phone numbers, emails that you know, to then contact them to let them know, hey, this is what I'm doing. Even if they don't buy, the thing is, it's branded in their heads that you do health insurance. So now when somebody else has a question about it, you just have 100 referral sources now. If each person sends just one referral during open enrollment, that's 100 clients on your book.
That is, that's powerful, man. And I'm actually making a note of that right now. And those are 100 people that, you would say that you just kind of acquaintances and friends, or is that like friends and family? Who does that list include? Just anybody and everybody you can think of, or maybe like your 100 closest people to you?
So great question. So generally, because this will be considered your warm market, people you personally know or somebody that know of you. So if you exhaust the list of friends, family that you know pretty quick, maybe you have 50. Well, what if somebody who know you through association from one of your other friends? Like maybe you don't hang out with them, but you may see them at a party and they know you by name and face. Put them on that list. So at least it's, hey, I'm not trying to say nothing. Just want to show you what we do. If you're interested, let me know. No pressure. If not, just let somebody else know what I do who could benefit from it.
All right. So let's say I've got my list of 100 now, right? Project 100. I love that. And I got to share a story about what one of my business coaches just told me about a similar thing, right? Just the old school, write down 100 names and numbers. But first, before I do, let's say I've got my list of 100 people, right? Am I calling that person and saying, what am I doing? Am I calling them and saying, hey, you were on my list of 100. I'm looking for people to send me business. It's me. Or what? How do you start that conversation? What's a good way to open that?
So that's a great question. So you have different tactics. And again, you have to kind of feel what works for you. But to me, I would generally shoot some kind of text. Hey, I got something just came up. If you wouldn't mind, give me 5 minutes here. Time. I just want to share something with you. That leaves them, curiosity kills the cat. They don't know what it's about. So now they're going to be willing to answer. Even if they text back, well, hey, what is it? Okay, let me just jump on a quick call right quick just to show you. Because the goal is to get people to answer the phone. If you give them too much up front and they make a determination up front, I'm not interested, now you just killed it. So you got to get them on the phone or in person to a sense, not, I guess you could say you corner them to be able to present what you have to offer. And again, once you get them on the phone, just want you to let you know what I'm doing, new career path. This is what I'm doing, and kind of go through some of the benefits of what you have. And then at that point, if you could benefit from it, I'd love to help you. If not, just when somebody else says they need something along these lines, I would just really appreciate it if you refer them my way. Does that make sense?
I love that. I love that. Do you offer any kind of referral bonus or anything like that?
We have in the past, but the challenge with that is a lot of times people come just for the referral bonus and not the value you bring. So to get started, you could possibly do some of that, but I would definitely say after a certain point in time to cut it off so that people are coming to you for the value, your expertise, rather than what you can give them on a bonus. Because think about it, right now, if a person is sick or have a toothache or something like that, if you have a really good dentist, it's like, you know what, the last time I had a toothache, they did what they need to do, and I don't have any more tooth issues. You're going to refer that person not because of what the doctor's going to give you some kind of gift card or something. You're going to refer because you know that they're going to take care of the person that is referred.
Man, that is so good, and you're one of the few people that I've heard ever, kind of being on the same page as what I've always recommended to agents, and that's, from personal experience, when I'd offer $100, let's say, hey, $100, referral fee. So if you send anybody my way that I can help, I'll pay you $100 or $50. One, there's regulations to this stuff, and you're not only allowed to pay so much, and you're not allowed to pay it for just business that you wrote. And so, without getting into the weeds of that, you're opening up yourself to potential issues. Okay. And two, I've always just got the feeling that it's a little slimy, right? Like that if that person really valued what you did for them, then they would refer people to you anyways, because wow, they were just, amazed. And so I switched it from, rather than being, as I'm wrapping up a call, right, or as I'm closing a sale, hey, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so happy we were able to help you. If you send me anybody that I can help, I'll send you a check for $100. Instead of doing that, okay, I switched it to, hey, Anthony, it was so great to talk with you today. I'm really happy we were able to help you out. The unfortunate truth is that there's just so many people out there that are so lost and confused and don't realize that they have options as it pertains to their health insurance or their life insurance. And, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to have helped you out. Okay. And if you feel like I've done a great job, if you feel like, what I've done for you is valuable, then I would just ask that you share my services with anybody that mentions health insurance or, maybe comes to you with questions. And hey, if you feel comfortable, even a Facebook post would be great. I'm going to add you on Facebook right now. I'm friends with all of my clients. Don't judge me. I'll post some funny stuff on there occasionally, but for the most part, we'll keep it professional. But I like to be connected with my clients. So if it's okay with you, I'll be friends with you on Facebook. You can share. And hey, listen, if I'm able to help some people that I would be greatly appreciated, as I'm sure they would greatly appreciate it as well. And, anybody that you send my way, I'm going to take the utmost great care of. So, something like that, now they're engaged. Now they want to help you because they're like, man, that's really valuable. That's awesome stuff. And if you did a good job, you'll know it by whether or not they sent you referrals and things. One other thing that I did one time, which was funny, there was about 15. This was at a time when I didn't have so many appointments, right? Or I wasn't as busy, but I had 15 referrals back to back to back where I was able to get somebody on the phone. Then they passed me to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And by the time I'd done it 3 or 4 times, it became kind of a fun game. Like, hey, Anthony, Cheryl sent me your information. And before Cheryl, somebody sent me her information. And before her, somebody sent me their information. And so it's been this fun referral chain. If you know anybody that I might be able to help, I'd love if you could pass me their info. I can give them a call and see if I might be able to help them out. The other kind of tip when it comes to that is, rather than asking for your client or your prospect to pass your information to somebody, get the information of the person that you can help, because it's likely that if your information is passed, they're not going to call you, because what I always say, insurance sucks. We just make it suck a little bit less, right? Nobody wants to talk about insurance. And so I'll let somebody know, hey, listen, if you can pass my info along, that would be great. However, what would be the best thing is if you could send me 3 friends or 3 individuals that that I might be able to help, because at the end of the day, I'm going to call them out of the blue. They're not going to be excited to talk about insurance, but by the time I get done with them, they're going to be thankful that you gave me their information, because we're going to deliver a high amount of value. So something along those lines is great. And real quick, the Project 100, Anthony, I was meeting with my business coach, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago. And she was telling me a story about a client of hers that's a real estate agent, that when she started out in real estate was kind of struggling. And she's not a sales coach by any means. She's just more of like kind of a life coach, life and business. She's really like a therapist to me more than anything. And because you got to have people to talk to in this life, man.
Right.
And she was telling me about a client of hers that, what was struggling when she first started real estate, but then built multiple six-figure income. Like, what is one of the top real estate producers, has a bunch of agents under her. Well, when she started, she had her build that list of 100 that you had mentioned. Okay. That helped launch her, but then she got away from it. And years later, right, that she came back to that same business coach and said, "Hey, I'm struggling again. This is, I don't know what's going on." She goes, "Hey, remember that list of 100 people that I had you write down? Let's do that exercise again." Well, she ended up closing on like a $2.5 million home or something for a client off of her Project 100, right? She didn't call it that. That's the first I heard that. But it doesn't matter what the point is. The reason why I'm sharing this, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Sometimes if you're struggling, getting back to the basics and the fundamentals of what got you there is what you need to do, right? A lot of times when I'm in a funk, I know that I just need to get on the phone and start selling again to really feel like, oh man, this is why I do what I do. So I appreciate that. That's awesome. The Project 100. I think that's good for people.
All right, very powerful.
So moving on to the next thing. So obviously,
really quick before you move on, because you said something that was a major key, that if a person wasn't listening, they missed it.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, because even when I talk about you getting referrals, or you're out prospecting and you're getting information, and just say you're passing your business card along. This is what I used to do as a rookie. I would go out, I would meet people, and I would pass my business card. Call me if you need insurance. Nobody ever will call. Very few, far between, right? But they, in the midst of the conversation, would talk about it. They were interested. What you have to do right then is get their information again, so that you build your database, your lead generation strategy, so you have somebody to contact, because leads is the lifeblood of your business. Think about if you own a shoe store. If you own a shoe store, you're going to have inventory. You're going to have shoes on your rack. If you don't have shoes on your rack, you can't sell to your customers. So you have to have a list of people to speak with. So when you're passing your cards, you have to make sure that you're getting their information so that you have inventory. Does that make sense?
That's so huge. Yeah. So huge. And then Phil made a comment too. He said, "Love that, and definitely do the same thing on social media platforms." I think it's underrated as far as social media and the relationships you can build. Heck, just look at this webinar we're doing right now, right? Me and Anthony first connected online, and that is the way. Those that are doing it the right way, right? Meaning you're leading with value. You're leading with what you can give back, right? Anthony and I started talking online long before we ever met in person, and we're able to share value back and forth and kind of learn from each other. And so no matter where you're at, what stage you're at, right? We have a community, okay? And Health Insurance Hustlers, a lot of you guys are tuning in from the Facebook group, Health Insurance Hustlers. There's 1.6 thousand members in the group. And I can tell you at least half of them are probably in the same boat you are as a new agent, or just starting out, or trying to learn. Build yourself a community, build your own community by posting in there and sharing, "Hey, you know what? I'm looking for people to hold me accountable this open enrollment," or "I'm looking for people that we can, compare goals, or, compare processes," or whatever. And they don't have to be in your same organization. They don't have to be in your same, they don't have to be in your same company. What my old church, actually my church that I'm a part of now, I would say my old church because I moved back from Orlando. But the church that I'm a part of now, they say that real life change happens in the context of small groups. And that's what you've got to create for yourself is a small group of people, right? 10, 12 people that are kind of in your circle that, when you're feeling down, or when you're, had a rough day, or maybe when you had a killer day, you have some people that can celebrate that with you. And I hope you have that amongst your organization. But if you don't, you can still create it outside of your organization. So some powerful stuff out of the gate there. I knew it was going to be like that. Anytime you get Anthony on this call, man, it's going to be good stuff. So I appreciate it. So now let's fast forward real quick and talk to some of the more seasoned agents, or maybe the more advanced agents, we'll say. What are some of the strategies you're using this year to ensure, obviously, efficiency, right? Because you're a family man, you've got kids.
Yes.
It's not always. I mean, back in the day, for me, it was easy. I would work 8 a.m. to 9, 10 o'clock at night and do that every single day. And of course, you're going to succeed. When you put in those kind of hours, man. When you put in that amount of effort, you're going to win, but obviously that comes at a cost. And so now I've got 2 young kids. I know you've got young kids, and I know that there's a lot of individuals that, don't have the time to put in 8 to 8. So how do you ensure efficiency through open enrollment? How do you ensure effectiveness? What are some of the strategies you use in the, traditionally 45 days, this year, 60 days, or I don't know what it would be total, 75 days of open enrollment. Yeah. How do you ensure that you're the most effective you can be during that 75 days? What are some tips and tricks?
Okay, so great question. Number one, I would definitely say you're going to have to leverage automation, because you're going to have to be able to buy your time back. So trade a few dollars for a system that can automate a lot of the things and communications that you need to send to your clients. So let's just say after the enrollment is completed, what I used to do when it was just me by myself is I would just send a lot of emails out. Hey, this is what your plan is. This is your due date. This is all this kind of stuff, right? But manually doing that for each person takes time, even if it's 3 minutes per person. And now if you're saying you did 1,000 enrollments, that's 3,000 minutes you spent sending emails alone. So at that point, you have to figure out a way to create templates and send out automation for communication. That's number one. The more you can automate, the more time you can buy back, because now you're not spending so much time on daunting tasks. So I highly recommend that. And if you don't have the funds,
3,000 hours. Sorry to interrupt you. That 3,000 hour or 3,000 minutes, I mean, is what, 50 hours of time.
Yeah.
So, that's a whole lot of time. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You basically just burn a week and a few days on just sending emails during your busiest season. So that's a great perspective to put that in. So outside of automation, I would definitely recommend leveraging, if possible, if you have the resources, for a virtual assistant. So if you're able to get a virtual assistant to help with also communications, to streamline some of those things. So if you think about all of the things that you're doing, make a checklist, right? Per client, per sale is generally a checklist you can go down. If there's 25 things you do per person, how can you, through automation, one, get some of those things off your list, and then two, through maybe a virtual assistant or something, to get 7 or 8 things off your list. So now the 25, you're physically touching 5 things. Does that make sense? And the other 20 things are being passed off.
And so now might be a good time with it being, halfway through October, take the next 2 weeks. And I did this exercise personally for a month, where every single day I would, let me see if I can find it. Yep, here it is. Every single day I would go through. I did it back in August, and I wrote, so 9:15 I went to church, then I had lunch, then I wrote every single every single thing I did down, even throughout the weekdays, like the tasks that I would do, so that I could take this kind of checklist, as you called it, and I can, say, well, this is something that I can remove. I don't really need to be doing this, or, maybe I can have somebody else do this, so it frees up that amount of time. You got 2 weeks, right, until the actual kickoff of open enrollment. And so take the next 2 weeks to really narrow down on what you're doing, and make sure that the things you're doing during that time, as Anthony was saying, is, you're doing the things that only you can do, right? And then you're automating or outsourcing the rest. I know that for a lot of my agents, they hired telemarketers for the month of, the months of November, December, and they're paying the telemarketer $3 an hour, right? I mean, that's crazy, $120 a week to have somebody working alongside of you. 40 hours a week calling either your leads that you couldn't get a hold of, or generating leads for you, or maybe even following up with clients. You've got some time to get some of those things in place. So, certainly take advantage of that. And that's some great advice, Anthony. At what point in time did you, really start to build out those automations and focus on those automations? Like, is it something that you'd recommend a brand new agent do, or is there maybe a time period in which you should make that transition, or what do you think?
So great question. So as an agent, say this is the first open enrollment, you have to right now be building your income. So you don't have as much time to strategize and get some of those things done for the automation building. Because again, you do that in your downtime. Think about going to war. You don't go to war and start counting your bullets, cleaning your gun. You don't do that while you're in battle. You do that before you get to battle. So if you're already here, that time is over. It's game time right now. So at this point, now you need to be going out making as many sales as you can. Whatever you're doing, always use this mantra: do it, document it, and then delegate it. So whatever you're physically doing right now, that's going to continuously be repetitive. Now, once open enrollment is over with, you notate what were you doing? What were you doing over and over and over and over, over and over and over and over. Template emails, text messages, whatever that looks like. At that point, now you're going to get those things and you're going to start documenting them, and then you're going to package it up to where next open enrollment, because it's the long-term play, you'll have a decent income. You have your renewals, residuals built up from your customers paying every month. Now, while you have some downtime throughout the year, your servicing is not as high volume selling. Now you start putting some of that automation in place. So next open enrollment is streamlined. That's how you scale it.
Man, I love that. Do it, document it, and delegate it. And I know my man Eric is watching, and he's going to make some highlights of this video. He's going to chop up some little pieces. Make sure you get that piece, Eric, because that was gold. Do it, document it, and delegate it. And that's exactly what I was mentioning with jotting down my tasks. I struggled, man. I really struggled to, outside of when you're writing it down in the moment. Like if I tried to look back at what I did last week, dude, my memory is just not that good. So, if you were to ask me, what does a normal week look like for you? Well, I don't remember, I maybe have to look, because sometimes you're just in go mode and you don't even realize, you're just kind of just blacked out, just going through it. Right. And so you got to do it, document it, then delegate it. I love that, man. That's incredible. So I know you're a big goal guy, right? I know you definitely set goals, and most of the time I'm sure you crush them. And other times we fall short, which is a good thing, right? It keeps us striving for more. But what are some of your goals for open enrollment this year? What are some, maybe for your family goals, your business goals? Share some of that stuff. And before you do, real quick, just want to mention, notice what he said. It's the long game, right? Run what you brung. Don't get discouraged right now. Play the long game. Anthony's been doing this a while. Anthony, how long have you been doing this?
So licensed agent since 2009, and then since open enrollment first started, 2013?
Yep. So he's been working every open enrollment since 2013. So when you hear him talk about automations and delegations and all of this stuff, it's been a process.
Down the line. Yeah.
It's been a process for him too. So keep that in mind. But yeah, what are some of your goals for this year, man? As it's, I guess, the 8th or 9th open enrollment for you.
All right. So this year's a great question. More team members, right? Because it's one thing for me to acquire success myself, but at this point, I'm at a place where I want to share that success. So we're building more team members. As I've been blessed, we want to be a blessing. So we want to pass that through to other people to help them create legacies for themselves. So a lot of people don't really understand that in this short game time, in 2 to 3 months, you can create a 6-figure income. And so we really want to show more people how to do that. That's number one. Number two, we really want to get our company to where it's more data driven, and it's not so much as paper, it's more systematic. So it's system dependent, not people dependent.
I love it. What are some of the things you're doing? What are some of the things you're doing to accomplish that? Not just on the recruiting side, but the data, like let's dissect that a little bit, because that's an interesting topic.
Okay. So with the data, one, you need some sort of CRM, obviously, to capture lead information and stuff like that, right? But then with automations and to be able to make sure I'm organized, we have a system. I'm not sure if you ever heard about it, but Monday.com is one of the systems that we have. So we have money.com, project oriented. And what it does is allows you to segment and really stay focused and highly prioritize what it is your next project is and what it is the next goal you need to hit, campaign you need to hit. Because a lot of times we can get so squirrely, we can try to chase multiple rabbits all over the place. But what that does is allow you to catch one rabbit at a time. And then now that you're catching one rabbit at a time, you're more productive. So we want to get our productivity up, not just our activity.
Dude, you're the best with examples, man. Everything you say, there's always some sort of example. Like you don't go into war loading your gun and counting your bullets and cleaning your gun and all that stuff. You gotta use an example every time, and it really illustrates it for me. I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he did a podcast with Patrick Bet-David. Don't listen to it if you haven't already. It's not really all that great, to be honest with you. They just talk about politics the whole time. But one of the interesting things that was brought up is that Joe Rogan said that in his years of doing the podcast, right, hundreds and thousands, he's done thousands of episodes. He said he's learned more through hosting a podcast than he ever did at any university or in any school or any classroom. And that's what I get to do with this, man. It's not really necessarily a podcast. I guess it's a vidcast, but I'm learning stuff myself, and I really appreciate you jumping on. Super valuable for everybody watching. And if you're catching the recording of this, make sure you let us know, throw a comment in there, and thank Anthony for jumping on as well. I know that you do. I know that you kind of have a little bit of a niche, right, with what you do in the under 65. So what are some of the packages you're building? What are some of the cross sales that you have to have aside from life insurance that we've already talked about? Let's talk products for a moment. What's in your product suite for the 2022 plan year?
So 2022 plan year is a great question. So outside of the ACA and the life, dental, and vision we're doing, we really want to expand more into the Medicare space because we're having more of our under 65 age out into Medicare, number one. And then two, once we do such a great job with those younger people, their parents or grandparents are needing help. Hey, would you help my mom, my grandma? So we need to have a real solution for those people. So that's the next rabbit that we're going to be grabbing.
I love it. So basically, and you're selling a lot of ACA as well. Outside of the life insurance, are you outside of life insurance and dental and vision, right? Is there any products that you're really selling along with the ACA, or is it mainly the ACA enrollment with the cross sale of life insurance down the road, or during that process? What any like, are you selling any fixed benefit plans like a Manhattan Life Affordable Choice along with it, or is it mainly ACA?
Yes, so mainly ACA. And so what happened was, again, all those rabbits, because we were doing health insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, renters, commercial. We had all these products we were doing. We were very wide, but we wasn't very deep. So again, we had to start scaling back so that once again, that we can master one thing versus being jack of all trades, master none. We want to master one thing, which we did that with the health insurance piece. And then again, I've already had experience since 2009 in life insurance, so it just made sense to marry those two together. And then from there, branch out. See how I even mentioned with the Medicare? That's not something that I've been doing. I've been licensed to do it, certified every year. I do a couple here and there, but now we're actually going to be gritting our teeth into it for 2022 to move up and scale it. Does that make sense?
I love that. It makes perfect sense, man. And unfortunately, we all know that 92% of insurance agents fail. We all, are doing our part to try to decrease that number and all of these things. But I say it over and over again, man. I think one of the biggest, reasons for the failure or the lack of success that you want to see is that, there's too many shiny objects in this business. And
right.
We talk about getting in the room a lot, right? We talk about all these events, and the events are great. They're awesome, man. And social media is great. Being able to connect with Anthony and being able to connect with all these people, but it also creates an environment where Anthony just said, man, he's focusing on Medicare next. And if I was wanting to kind of keep up with the Joneses, then maybe I'd feel like, oh man, I need to add Medicare too. Well, oh, but he said life insurance too. Man, I need to do life insurance. Oh, but Joe Campert's over there preaching PNC. Man, I got to get into the PNC world as well. And before you know it, you're doing like you're talking about. You're very wide, but not very deep, and you're the jack of all trades, master of none. Whereas, for me, starting off in insurance and health insurance, I sold 2 products mainly my first year as a broker, right, as an independent, and 90% of my income came from one product. You know, I know there's full insurance agencies out there that are running off of selling one product. Now, don't die by that product, meaning don't stick with that product forever and ever and ever and only stick with that product, right? You can, after you've mastered it, it should become somewhat automated, right? After you build the automation, delegation should become second nature. You should be able to do it in your sleep practically at a certain point. And so now, then is the time where you can add Medicare, right? That's the time where you can add life insurance. That's the time where you can, you know, look at something else. But until you really mastering the one thing, don't get sidetracked with all the shiny objects. And also don't fool yourself into believing that, man, it's just a product, right? If maybe if I was selling Medicare, I'd be more successful. Or maybe, you know, Anthony said he does ACA and I do private, right? I do mainly short-term medical and fixed benefit and these alternative options. And maybe the problem is not me or the process. Maybe the problem is the product. So now I'm going to go try and sell ACA. Oh, but then Joe Camper's talking about selling auto insurance. And so maybe this health insurance deal isn't for me. Maybe I need to go into P&C, right? Because everybody insures their cars and homes and things. So maybe I'll try that, right? And before you know it, you're bouncing all over the place, not focusing and not getting very deep, as Anthony said. So, man, that's some gold. Well, I want to open it up. If anybody has any questions, you know, we've got some people on the stream. I want to open it up for questions. But as we're waiting for questions, or if there's any questions coming through, I know I see some of my guys on here. Ben said, thank you, Anthony. One of my agents.
You're welcome.
Nick Carden says gold. So I love it. But while they're coming up with some questions for us, any closing thoughts, any last advice, any bit of, you know, hey man, this is what you got to do, or you got to make sure you do this to be successful. And I know we talked about working with Rickietta, which is in the background, and I see her working hard. Somebody's got to keep things going, I guess, for you while you're doing this. But any closing thoughts or things you want to add before we take some questions?
So 2 things, because one, you said it earlier that you have a coach. Every great player has a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. Kobe had a coach, and they actually share coaches, Tim Grover. So everybody needs a coach, okay? So number one, you need to seek out a great coach and mentor who has been there where you're going, who's doing what you're doing, and can continue to give you more advice. So who's been there, done that, and still doing that. That's what I always say. Get under somebody who can show you the way, okay? That's number one. Number 2, just want to give you a shout out, Brad. I know I'm on your show, but hey, you have really been a real dude, man. Just letting your followers know that before I even met you in person, like you mentioned, we was online and everything. And the day we meet, you just pouring into me, sharing nuggets, and we going back and forth. And you didn't have to do that. We're not on the same team so far as agency. You're not getting any kind of benefit from anything that you're sharing with me. So I just want to just publicly say I appreciate you for doing that.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that as well. And I've been home in kind of a quarantine as well as having the newborn. And so it's been a unique couple weeks for me, but I've had a few people mention that. And honestly, man, I love doing it. I love being able to share on the little bit that I know. And I feel like I'm learning more and more all the time in this business. But you know, what I shared just a minute ago about, you know, not getting distracted by the shiny objects, not getting that comparison syndrome. You know, comparison is the devil, man. It literally is the devil.
Yeah.
Like the devil wants you to compare yourself to others. Okay. And it's so easy to compare yourself and, you know, not measure up in your own mind. And that's not, you know, that's not what this life is for, right? Like Anthony said, find somebody that's doing it just a little bit better, or maybe a whole lot better, and take a nugget here and there from that particular person, you know, and being able to apply that is huge. But it is, man, it's so easy to get caught up in the rat race of, you know, man, well, he's doing it this way and I got to do this way, or, you know, man, he's recruited 100 people in the last 10 days and I got to do what he's doing. But what you don't know is that on the back end, he's spent $50,000 to do so,
right.
Or he's got a system that he designed for the last 6 years, or, you know, what there may be something that they have that you don't have yet that you will have in the future, but you won't have it if you start comparing yourself and getting down on yourself. So I love that. I appreciate that. Personally, I got to know, what are some of the best tips to working with your spouse, right? I know that, and obviously you can only say so much because she's behind you, so it's got to be all good stuff. But I know it would be.
It's anything I would say behind her back, I would say in front of her.
Well, it's recorded, so it's probably one way or the other. But I know that you guys do it so well, man. And I truly, I love watching your stuff, especially the more comedic videos that you guys post with the family doing fun stuff, man. It's awesome and it's inspiring. So share a little bit on that, man. Has it always been so easy to work with your spouse? Did you go through some tougher times? Like just maybe for somebody that's trying to work with their spouse or working with their spouse and, could use a little bit of advice for some of the people that do it best.
Okay, so great question. So understanding, number one, that working with your spouse is very challenging. It's very challenging, but it's very rewarding at the same time.
I love it.
So if you understand that and you're willing to work through the challenges to reach the rewards, man, you'll be glad you did. Because when you have a person who has a similar vision, y'all are working towards one common goal. That's a major benefit versus you working towards one goal, your spouse is in a corporate job or have their own business doing something different, and now y'all are going apart. So that's number one. But the main measurement of the success, you have to keep God first. So if you have one standard foundation is God, and then you build it on top of that, now that's a strong foundation. If you're trying to build on your foundation, she's building on her foundation. The word says a house divided against itself can't stand. So you're already going to run into issues if you're not on one solid rock foundation, which is Christ. So that's number one. And then from there, you have a common goal, common vision. You're talking it through and you're working toward every action you're taking is either bringing you closer to it or pulling you further away from it. So being very aware of what you're doing on a day-to-day.
I love that. I love that, man. And I saw your illustration for those that weren't at SWAT and maybe didn't get a chance to see Anthony and Riquetta speak. There's an illustration he was doing with the triangle and God at the top. And this is one spouse and this is the other spouse. And the closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. And man, I just love that. That was amazing stuff. A couple of questions real quick that came in. So Nick says, how do you generate more referrals from current clients throughout the year? And how many times, I like the second part of this question the most, how many times, how often, how many times do you check in with your clients?
So great question. So number one, generating referrals look simple as, hey, number one, while I'm on the phone with you, and you kind of mentioned this, after you're enrolling the client, who else is in the house that could use my services? Literally right there, because if you ask them who else can use my services, their mind goes blank. Or they think, I don't want to tell this person, who else is in the house right now? If they're in the car, who's in the car with you? You see what I'm saying? And at that point, it's a simple passing of a phone. So that's one golden nugget that y'all really should be paying me some money for that one. But I'm just playing. But the second piece is the touch-up points. Again, it's not a silver bullet or one answer for that. And the reason why I say that, because when you look 7 years ago, what following up looked like versus today is totally different. So back then, I might only have the capacity. And that's what it all goes back to, your bandwidth. How many things can you do at one time effectively, right? So if this year following up with your client twice is what your capacity and bandwidth allows for, follow up with them twice. Next year, again, you have some of that automation in place, and you can do 3 touch points on a drip campaign and 2 phone calls. Now you have 5 touch points on that client. And then as time goes on, you'll have the infrastructure to follow up every month if you need to. So the answer to the question depends on where you are, but the key point is to start somewhere. 1 or 2 touch points after the enrollment has been completed. Hey, just calling you back, Ms. Smith, to see if you have any questions. Do you need help making your payment? Do you need help getting an ID card? Do you need help selecting a doctor? Whatever that looks like, generally once that's set up on the front end, there's not a lot of back end trailing help that's needed. So if you check back mid-year, then that's fine up front. And then as time goes on, you do more touch points.
I love that, man. And that's so huge. And with the dependence on where you are is big too, because if you're running a multi 6-figure agency, you can probably pay somebody to be a client retention specialist or to be your client care specialist or whatever. And their job is to follow up. But as a solo agent, I think that Anthony said it best, man. A couple of touch points right after the sale are huge. Maybe a 1 week follow-up and then a 1 month follow-up, or maybe a 2 week follow-up and a 2 month follow-up, whatever it is, have your rhythm and have your CRM schedule that stuff automated, right? Meaning, that after the sale goes, a lot of CRMs will automate the next appointment for 1 week later or a month later if you set it up for that. So that's huge. And we'll take one more question real quick. And this is a great question from Ben Smith. He says, for someone not focusing on Medicare, right? He does under 65. One of my agents, one of my favorite agents too, because he loves to hear that he's the favorite agent. But for someone not focusing on, I guarantee he's smiling big right now. I do under 65, but have clients that keep asking me, would you refer them, right? If he doesn't currently do Medicare, would you refer them out or inside the agency, or is it best to keep them on the books and help them with their Medicare?
So really great question. So my take on that is this, and this is from my personal experience that I had to learn. Because again, remember I told you I was doing the PNC, home life, health, auto. I was doing all these things, right? I would do that health insurance piece for a client, and let's just say I do an auto policy for them. What would happen is, as time goes on, they get in a car accident. Now, again, you have to service that policy. Again, I go back to bandwidth and capacity. So now when that person is needing a claim, they need help right then. There is no way, let's schedule an appointment next week. I just had a car accident. I need a new vehicle for work today. What can you do? If you can't feel that need right away, you just lost that client because you put a bad experience in their head. Now they're going to feel like, well, if you can't help me with my car insurance, how can I trust you with my health insurance? Does that make sense? So at that point, for me earlier on, it was best for me to try to establish, well, once I learned, I had to establish referral partners to where I would refer that item out. And then I scratch your back, basically you scratch mine, to where, because you're not doing the under 65, there's a common courtesy to refer that back to me. So now you're just making sure your client is taken care of. When you make sure your client is taken care of, they'll send referral, because they know that you have their best interest at heart. You're not just trying to just sell them something. And then as time go on and you have the capacity once again, then you can bring that Medicare back in when you know how to service them. Because if Miss Smith needs this specific drug and you're not product specific and know what she needs, and you sell her this plan and she's stuck with it all year and she can't see her doctor or get her prescriptions, you got a big problem.
Yeah, no, I like that answer. And I think that ultimately the correct answer is that always, when you can write it, you should, but when I say when you can write it, you have to have the bandwidth like Anthony was talking about, and you have to have the time to invest in. A lot of times what I find is a Medicare agent will call me or a life insurance agent will call me and say, hey, I got this client that wants health, man. Can you get me set up to write them? And it's like, that's, you're setting yourself up for failure, like Anthony said, because you're getting a new product immediately. Then you're putting that on your client. You're selling that to your client. You're putting them in that plan or whatever. And you're not familiar with servicing it. You're not familiar with the back end. You're not familiar with, you haven't trained on it. It's not necessarily what you do. You're almost doing more harm than good by writing them yourself, when you could just refer them out to somebody that's a professional. And, ultimately with this case, we know that he can refer it to somebody inside the agency. So that's what we certainly suggest. But great answer, Anthony. Want to be respectful of your time. Also want to see Raquetta. So tell her to come say hi real quick to everybody. If she's willing.
Say hi to everybody really quick. You ever step away?
We got to get her in here real quick. Hey, how are you?
Come here.
Hi, Raquetta. How are you? We'll have to get you on another one here soon. Anthony killed it. Just wanted to say thank you. And also, she can't hear me. I just want to say thank you for letting us share your husband for a moment, as well as, thank you for everything you do in the industry and with your family. I love watching it. We'll have to get you on here next. And, thank you guys both so much. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. Appreciate you guys dropping in, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.